Morning, folks. I'm sitting here on my stool in the junkiest part of my house, and what we're going to do today is that I'm going to show you how to make a I'm not going to call it a flow through worm bin because that's not the right concept. The concept is that it's a three-tiered worm bin, and they'll be made out of Rubbermaid totes. We're just going to make one for the video and go on, but I have 2 pounds of red worms coming tomorrow to add to my stock that I've already got. So I need to get a place for them to live, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to make a place for them to live, and I'm going to show you how it's done. Stand by. So let's get started. You're going to need a few things. Get these out of the way. The lids for the totes. Alright, so what you're going to need are the Rubbermaid 10-gallon totes. They are about 2 feet long. Yeah, about 2 feet, about 1.5 feet wide. That gives you enough surface area in here that you can raise about 3,000 red worms. You can really do some serious composting with these. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started on one of them to get it prepared. One tote will be the base of your little worm condo. The other 2 will be the working sections. So let's start with one. We'll start with this guy right here. What we're going to do is we're going to take a drill. You can use any other cutting implement you want. Doesn't matter. We need some big holes in the bottom of this thing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 holes right here in the bottom in the middle. Alright, so we'll start here. I want you to look. See that spade bit I'm using? You're going to notice something. I'm going to get it started and then I'm going to try to pull it away. The reason is if you just drill on through, it's really kind of a pain in the butt. So you might want to use a different cutting implement, like a, oh heck, I don't know, a hole saw, or you could just use a utility knife. So here we go. First hole. Get it started, pull back on it. There we go. Now I can finish the hole. Alright. That allows me to get that little plug off of the drill easier. Pull back on it. Get going again. Alright, the holes are done. Got 10 of them. If you want, you could drill more. That's not a big deal. Matter of fact, I'm going to do that. I'm going to drill another one right here. Okay, so we got 11 holes in the bottom of this thing. The purpose of the holes is not for drainage. A lot of people think you need drainage in your worm bins. Well, you kind of do if you use a lot of wet stuff and you get things too moist. Yeah, you need drainage, and that's what the bottom tote is going to do, is catch any kind of like runoff or anything like that. But that's not the purpose of these holes. The purpose of these holes is going to provide a path for worms to go from one bin into the next, and I'll explain that in a little bit. Now the next thing you're going to need is hardware cloth. All we have here is 1/4" hardware cloth. I kind of wanted 1/8 inch, but they didn't have any at the any 1/8 inch at the hardware store. They only had 1/4 inch. So what I'm going to do is kind of straighten this out a little bit so that it'll sit semi-flat. I'm not worried about it sitting too, super flat, because what I'm going to do is cut it. And in order to cut it, you'll need the right tools. This is metal. I use this tool to cut this stuff. You can use, and I have done it, and it works. You can use regular scissors. I do not recommend using something like this. You can do it with these too, but it'll take forever. Alright, so we're going to measure this stuff out, and this stuff's being a little bit of a pain in the butt here. Alright. So we're going to measure it out, and what we're going to do is line up one edge, kind of like that, so that it's just sitting on the outside of the ridges here. Get that lined up, and all you have to do is figure out which row to start cutting on. And on this one, it looks like this row right here is what I need to start cutting on. So that's what I'll do. Started the cut. I'm going to cut this all the way across. Not worried about an even cut. As long as I'm on the same row, I'm in good shape. You want to wear gloves while doing this so that you don't get your hand poked by the sharp little points that are coming out. That's okay too. I'm not a glove wearing kind of guy, so I take my lumps and don't complain about it. Alright, so got our hardware cloth cut to the right width. Now we need the correct length, and I'm just going to cut somewhere in here. Let's go right about there. That ought to get her done. Alright. Had to make sure I wasn't cutting off into where I don't want to cut. Alright, so it's cut to the right width, it's cut to the right length, and we're not putting it right there. We're putting it inside. Just like that. You want your hardware cloth inside the bin. So, next item of business. What do? Do we just lay it there? We could. Nothing wrong with that. If you want to just lay it there, go right ahead. That's not a problem. Okay? However, I like to fasten mine in. So I've got some cable ties. And we're going to do this the lazy way. And the lazy way is to hold your hardware cloth in. On a cable tie up this way, over here, down that way, flip it over, grab the end before it falls away from you. And zip it in there nice and tight. If it's too slippery to hold, get yourself a little pair of needle nose or something. And then you can kind of do that to tighten them up. Okay, got that one. Sometimes I like to go for overkill. Meaning I like to tie things down a bit more than they strictly have to be. Better to come from the other side. So that's what we'll do. We'll come from the outside up. And then we'll go down that way. Grab both ends of the cable tie. Feed it through there. And we'll tighten her up. Nice and tight. There we go. And clip off the ends. Clip that one off. Clip that one off. Okay, that's actually good enough to hold it in there. But I'm going to put a couple more in just simply because I'm that kind of guy. I want this thing held in pretty good. So we'll get a couple more cable ties going and be right back. We now have our hardware cloth in here, and this little part of the bin is ready to go. All we got to do is make one more just like it. So we'll do that right now. Alright folks, our worm tower is basically complete. Consists of those two that we just drill holes in, put hardware cloth in, and a bottom one which is still solid. Theory of operation on this. You start off with just one. Build a bed in it, put your worms in it, start feeding your worms. As the level of worm castings, or whatever else you've got in here, builds up, when it gets up to about, the level of that line right there, maybe a little higher, just take your other one, the one you got that you built, got more holes in, got the wire in the bottom of it, set it in here on that and start feeding your worms right in here. You will never have to make another bed. You'll need bedding on top of the worms. I don't know why they call it bedding, but it's more of a covering. But feeding your worms in here, and they will migrate up through these holes. They'll make their way up through there into this second bin. By the time this bin gets up to the line, you can simply lift it off, take the first bin, the one that's got all your castings in it, and go dump it in your garden. There's no separating, there's no harvesting to do. It's ready to go. The worms have all migrated up. So anyhow, let's end this part of the video here. We're going to go ahead and get one of these bins ready. Like I said, I've got worms coming tomorrow, and I've got to be ready for them. So let's get started. One last step to getting this bin ready to go and things like that before you add your bedding is to put holes right here in the top. Doesn't matter how many. I'm just going to put in 3. You can put in 4, 5, 6, however many you need, however many you think you need. 3 is plenty. 1 would be enough. Alright, it's ready to go. Adding holes to the bin, just make sure you have good ventilation. That's all it does. Or to the top of the bin. So anyway, through the whole video, you'll notice that I didn't measure anything. I just guesstimated where I was putting the holes. The only thing that I halfway measured was the hardware cloth, the wire mesh that goes in the bottom, and that was just to make sure it would fit in the bottom. So anyway, the bin's ready to get ready. The bin's ready except for the bedding, and the next part of this video will show you putting the bedding in, and then tomorrow when the worms come in, I'll finish this video up and we'll show you I'll show you me putting the worms into the bedding. Okay, so what we've got going on now is we have peat moss in the tub, and the tub is in the tub. What we're going to do is add a little bit of water to this peat moss to get it moist. And you've got to actually work this stuff. It's not just going to do it for you. It will not absorb water until you work it in. And you want to add a little bit of water at a time, not a lot. You want it moist. But you don't want it super wet. And yep, you're getting dirty. If you had a concrete mixer, you know, it's a little cement mixer like you use, you know, for home use, you could use that. Not quite damp enough. It's getting there. That up there. That might be too much. Might have made it a little too wet. Who knows? Mix it up good. Make sure you get all that moisture mixed in. You don't want dry spots, you don't want muddy spots, you want nice, moist peat. Now if you don't have peat moss, you can also use other things. You can use shredded up paper, you can use shredded up cardboard, you can use just about anything as long as it is not toxic to the worms. Alright, let's try it out. We got a little handful here. Squeeze it and just barely get some drops out of it. That is pretty close to just right. Okay, so let's get a bed ready. Alright, we've got our bin right here, and for one time and one time only you'll need to do this, or you'll want to do it. I don't know if you really need to or not. Got some old packing paper here. You can use newspaper, advertising flyers, whatever you got, and I put it in the bottom. I want to put a couple of layers in there. The reason being that you don't want your peat moss falling out the bottom. Once the worms start making castings, that's not going to be a problem. As you can see there, it doesn't have to be neat, just has to be in there. Alright, all it's doing is covering the holes. It's the last time you'll ever have to do that. From now on, all you got to do is just keep letting the worms migrate up to the next bin. The material will hold together good enough that you can move those things around. So we're going to get a little water in here. Wet this stuff down. What that'll do is help it mold into place. As you can see, it's kind of molded itself in there. I'm going to drain off this excess water, just like that. And now, we're ready for the peat moss. I'm going to put about, I don't know, an inch or two in here. Let's see how that spreads out. Okay, there it is. That's plenty of peat. That's all the peat you're going to need in here. Next thing I do is something people don't think about. And this is just to help the worms. Is I take some play sand. I get it from Home Depot. It comes in 50-pound bags. I put it in this bucket just to make it easier to tote around. Okay. Take your play sand and sprinkle it in here. You don't have to worry about it too much. Just sprinkle it in. You don't need a lot of it. Just need a little. That's good enough right there. That will get the job done. And what this does is it provides grit for the worms. Alright, we got one more step to get this one ready. Okay, like I said, there's just one more step. Alright, and this step is to kind of provide a little bit of a cover to your bedding, and that is to lay in wet cardboard. Yes, I said wet, not damp, wet. You don't have to re-wet it again. You will need to dampen it from time to time because it will start to dry out, but you want a layer of wet, shredded cardboard. This is just cardboard I had laying around the house. Just laying it in there, not packing it down or anything, just kind of setting it in place. Want a good layer of this stuff on top. Underneath, if you want, you could put in some shredded newspaper that's been wetted down, things like that. It's really up to you. This is all just cardboard scrap. That I had sitting around taking up space in the house. Your worms will eat this stuff. They'll eat it from the bottom up. So anyway, there's the worm bin. It's completed. I've got my cardboard in here. I've got my peat moss in here, and on the very bottom, see if I can show you this without dumping everything out. Okay. On the bottom, I've got my holes, and between the peat moss and the holes, I have a layer of paper. This bin is ready to use. It's ready to go. When the worms come in, I'll just take this cardboard, fold it back, dump the worms in, and let them go. Let them do their thing. They will be happy little boogers. Alright folks, excuse the uniform. I'm getting ready for work, but my worms just got delivered, so I'm going to open them up and see what's going on. It's supposed to be 2 pounds in here, so we're going to turn on the scale, see how much the whole package weighs. Alright, so the whole package weighs 3.128 pounds. It's a good indication. We're going to see if we've actually got 2 pounds of worms in here real quick, and then we're going to add them to the 2 worm bins that you watch me make. So, turn that off. Alright, I went and got a little bowl to pour the worms into. Going to open them up. If it sounds like I'm in a little bit of a hurry, it's because I am. I don't have a whole lot of time between now and when I need to get to work. So, yeah, I'm kind of rushing around a little bit. Alright. So there's the bag. See how much the bag weighs. What the heck? It says Red Wiggler Worms 2 pounds at deltaworms.com. Bag weighs almost 2 3/4 pounds. That's a good indication. So we're going to put this on here. It's 1/3 pound. We're going to zero that out. And we got a zip tie on this thing. Looking for a cutter here. I'll have to use my pocket knife again. It's alright. Everybody ought to have a pocket knife. There we go. Zip tie is cut. Let's pour these little babies out here. Okay, it's saying 2.5 pounds. I doubt if there's half a pound of peat moss in there, so I think I got a pretty good deal. We're going to start adding these to the worm bins right now. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull worms out of the bowl a little bit at a time until the scale reads 1.3. That way I've kind of got a half and half. It's a guesstimate, but it's pretty close. Let's get the worm bin opened up. We're going to pull back our cardboard like that. And let's start adding worms. Just kind of pull them up, drop them in. Pull them up, drop them in. Let's see. Alright. Alright, that's about half the worms, and I'm going to just leave this cardboard off because I want the worms to dive down in here. I'm going to put this back on and go get the other bin. Be right back. Alright, we've got the other bin. Cardboard's kind of dried out a little bit. That's okay. Not worried about it. This stuff down here is still nice and moist. And we take the rest of the worms and we do that. Just like that. Everything's good to go. Alright, we can leave that just the way it is. And as you can see, I've got a bunch of worms down in here. A whole bunch of them. I don't know if you can really see that or not, but a whole bunch of red wigglers. You notice they're not moving too much. That's because they are a little bit dehydrated from that. There we go. Here's a whole handful of little boogers right there. How about that? All right. So anyway, we're going to let them sit there in the light and they will dive down. The next segment of this video I'll show is what I do for the worms after they've gone down into the bedding material and gotten acclimated to their new home. And we'll get after that probably, well, it'll probably be tomorrow morning before I start that one. So anyway, folks, thanks for watching, and stay tuned to this video to see the final step. Alright, everybody. Yesterday I got my worms in and introduced them to the bin. Last night I got home after work and went ahead and covered everything up. So let's take a look at what we've got here. Pull this back and let's just kind of dig in a little bit and look at all the worm activity there. Let's see if we can zoom in here a little bit. Oh, let's see, I'll move the... I know that's pretty dark, but we've got quite a bit of worm activity here. See a bunch of worms right there in that little handful. So what we're going to do today is give them their first feeding in their new bin. And widen that up a little bit. Okay. So anyhow, what I've done is made some food for them. This is just veggie scraps from my lunches, and I'm going to give them a little taste here, there, and yonder. Let's put some there. We'll put some over here. A lot of people say just, you know, pick a spot and put everything in that spot. You can do that. That's not a big deal, but I'm going to scatter this around a little bit. Get it kind of scattered into the worm bin. Alright, good enough. And we'll cover this back up. That was one bin. And let's see here. Get some newspaper or cardboard going here. Kind of cover it up some. There we go. Give these guys a nice little dark place to stay. Alright, let's check out the other bin. Let's swap these out. Okay, so here's the other bin. Pull the cardboard back. Oh, look at that. There's worms everywhere, all over the place. Look at them little boogers go. Alright, we'll give them some food. little bit of food there. Yeah, a little bit of food over there. Give everybody something to eat here. A little distribution going on. Alright. And we'll cover them back up. The little guys are loving this cardboard. They're all over it. While I'm here, I'm going to spritz this down a little bit. It's kind of dried out in the dry air here in Nevada. Good enough. The water I'm using is dechlorinated. And if you're wondering about how to dechlorinate your water, it's real easy. Get a bucket, fill it full of water, leave the top off, and let it sit overnight. The chlorine will off gas, and you'll have dechlorinated water. Now let's check our other bins. Alright, this is a bin that's been going for a couple of weeks. And I started out with worms that I already had on hand in other bins. So let's pull the cardboard back, see what we've got going on. I don't know if you can see that, but over in this corner over here, you can't really see it. I have fed these worms over here in one corner. Let's see if we can move that up a little bit and change the angle. You see right here, big mass of worms all over the food that I had given them. So we're going to feed them a little bit more in a different place. I'm going to cover those little guys back up. And just like the worms in the other bin, they love this cardboard. Alright, let's lift this up and we'll take a look here. This is this material here is sphagnum moss. I thought I'd try it out for bedding, and it's okay. The worms like it. You know, they're in it a lot. But I think I like regular peat better. But anyway, let's get some food in here for them. A little bit there, a little bit there. It's good enough for now. They haven't finished up the other food yet. I don't want to overload it. I don't want a stench in my apartment. And we're going to add some moisture to the top here. Just keep the cardboard nice and damp. Alright, so that's bin number 3. Like I said, it was started a couple of weeks ago. Get bin number 4. Move the camera around a little bit here. Okay, here's bin number 4. Get the lid off. Let's see, I forget where I put the food in this one. See if it's over on this end. Yeah, it is. It's over here on this end. big, huge mass of worms right there around that bit of food, and they're just going to town on it. So we're going to cover it back up, and we'll go over to this end. And we'll pull this up. Plenty of worm activity in here. I don't know if you can see that right there. That's an old coffee filter that I put in here. Plenty of worms around it. They like coffee as much as anybody else. So we're going to feed them over here a little bit. Just kind of scattered around in there. Kind of making a mess here, but that's alright. I don't mind. The worms don't mind. I don't mind. What I might do a little later on today is go get some horse manure for these guys, and throw that in there. Alright, we'll spritz, not a lot, just enough to dampen the cardboard some more. Good enough. And we've checked our worms, and that was it. Just to reiterate what we've done, we made a couple of bins, introduced worms to them, and we're going to let them go. These I've got 4 bins set up, so this is kind of an experimental thing. I want to see how long it takes these worms to actually go through the veggie scraps that I generate, which is apparently a lot. I generate a lot of scraps, but the worms are pretty slow at going through it, and we'll see what happens. Maybe things will speed up. I don't know. Like I said, we'll just see what happens, and we'll check on these every couple of days, maybe even only once a week, just to see what's going on. So stay tuned, folks. Thanks for watching this far along. I'll get this video put together, and you'll be seeing it, well, if you're seeing it on YouTube. So please subscribe to my channel, and check back often. Thank you very much.